requests for beginner tutorials on how to deepen the flexibility or just even where to start when it comes to backbending and heart opening. So today's tutorial is for the beginner level, and I will also show some variations for the next steps for when you do decide to deepen it to the next level. What you'll need is 2 blocks, a strap, your mat, and to be close to a wall so that we can use the wall space for some exercises. The wall is a wonderful prop. Alright, let's get started. Let's start with a few cat-cows. Line up your wrists underneath your shoulders and your knees underneath your hips. Then turn the wrinkly parts of your elbows back. So it's instead of elbows back this way, think spinning them so that the inner creases of your elbows face forward, externally rotating your arm bones. On your inhale, drop the belly, lift your chin and your chest, arch. And then as you exhale, round your spine, tuck chin to chest. Inhale. And exhale. So taking a couple rounds of this to warm up your spine, you might even close your eyes and imagine visualizing how the spine is moving in relation to your breath. And while this movement might seem simple, it's actually the foundation of most of the postures in yoga, from your standing poses, balancing poses, even your inversions. Every pose requires a little bit of arching and a little bit of curling. Inhale. And exhale. Child's pose, press your hips to your heels. One of my favorite exercises to open up the shoulders is extended puppy pose. So from your child's pose, you can walk your knees back, walk your arms forward, and this will depend on the flexibility of the shoulders. Forehead will come to the floor, and you just melt your shoulder blades and your chest down towards the floor. So as you get a little bit more flexible in this, you can lift the chin away from the chest and take your chin and your chest to the floor. I'd say for at least 10 breaths or so, really allowing your armpits to open. And then to come out, lift the head, walk your hands back, and then press back to a child's pose. Slide onto your belly. And take your feet between hips width and shoulder width apart. Not so wide that they're outside the edges of the mat, and they don't need to be together for right now. So, feet somewhere in between, pretty comfortable, basically. Prop up onto your elbows for what I call TV watching pose, or a Sphinx pose. And instead of just hanging out and collapsing, shrugging the shoulders, think of lifting your spine, using your legs to draw your tailbone back, and then using your elbows to pull your heart through. So there's action in the arms. I'm dragging my chest through as I lengthen my tail back. Legs are active, arms are active, shoulder blades are squeezing, shoulders away from the ears, long neck, and breathe. Good commercial break moment. And then lower all the way down. Let's take a quadricep stretch. So bend your left knee, and you can use a strap or you can use your hand. Loop up your foot. Then take your chin back down and pull the foot in close. Activate the front of your quad. So over here, the lift of here, if I place my fingers at my hip bone, I want to feel like I'm pressing my hip bone down. That's the activation of kicking your hip forward. From there, then you can pull the heel in closer. Right? If it's not enough, you can remove the strap and take your hand around the foot, pulling the foot in. If you have the flexibility, you can spin the fingers in the same direction as the toes. You need a good grip around the bone of the foot. And then the elbow will flip up. From there, pull it down. So next steps, right? If this is still comfortable and too easy, you can prop up on your elbows, draw the heel down outside of the foot, and then lift your chest. Same thing as the Sphinx pose. Pull the chest forward, right toes dragging back. Slowly let it go. And lay down. Let's do the other side. So right knee can bend. You can use the strap, or maybe the hand will grab the foot. Pull the heel in close. Kick your right hip down. If it's too easy, prop up onto the elbows, lift the chest. Right front thigh is pressing down into the floor. So that's why we're trying to remove any space from my hip bone and the mat. And breathe in. If you're tight, it doesn't have to go all the way to the hip, right? You can be over here and still feel a stretch. Activate your hips down like you're pressing all the air out from underneath the hip bone and the mat. And let it go. Rest. Wiggle it out. Child's pose. And we'll use our two blocks next to work a little bit more into the hip flexors. So that's this muscle in the front that stretches the entire front length of our thigh. So the quad and even a little bit deeper into the deep muscles of the hip flexors. So have your blocks on the highest setting and lunge your foot forward. From there, step your foot back, walk the blocks back, and take your knee as close as you can to the wall. So you can double up your mat for this if you like, if there's any pain in the knee. We'll start with the quad stretch. The hands will walk back on top of the thigh. And then again, that same resistance we found in the Sphinx pose of pressing our hip down into the floor, we're going to do that, but imagine the floor vertical this time. So engage the hip flexor forward as you stretch that entire quadricep, hip flexor. Hands can go up to opposite elbows, press the back against the wall, engage your core and scoop your tailbone under by lengthening, so slightly draw that hip forward. Woo, I feel it. Right, so this might look like this for you if you're a little bit tighter in the quad. You might already feel it just by doing this. You might just take your hands here and you might feel it here. But over time, as you get more flexible, you'll pull the belly away from the thigh, you'll kick that left hip forward, and then maybe even finding the balance with the hands up. Okay. When the hands come back down, we'll walk the right foot forward, lengthening our stance. And instead of backing my hips this time, I'm sinking my hip bones down. All right? So you'll find what's comfortable for you. It might be right here. But eventually we're trying to work it so that the top of your knee is on the mat instead of putting pressure on your knee. So if it's not accessible yet, if that's too much, you'll just take the knee further away from the wall and then lengthen your hips down, lift the chest. Finding 90 degrees in your front knee, the hands can just stay on blocks. And then think belly away from your front thigh. Come out, back up the hips. Step your right leg down. Send the left leg down. Come to kneel down close to the wall. Now sitting on your heels, thumbs at the back of your ribs, just encouraging the rib cage to lift. Feeling for movement being created behind the shoulders, behind the ribs. Hands can even come onto your thighs. It's like seated cat-cows. You're arching, inhale, exhale to round. Then keep the arch. Lift your right arm up and see if you can find the wall. Lift the left arm up, find the wall. Take your fingertips to the wall and walk them down until your palms are flat. So if your elbows are bent, that's okay. Now start to, as best as you can, engage the space behind the shoulder blades to straighten your arms. This is pretty deep, so you'll move at your own pace, and keeping your elbows bent in the beginning is fine. Eventually, you can walk the hands a little wider, and you're trying to really straighten and push the wall in. Right? But for now, as long as you feel opening, you're working the right spot. We're taking our habitual arms down poses and stance, and we're really changing the way our body is by taking the arms overhead and opening the armpits. Lift the ribs, puff the ribs forward, draw the chest forward just like your Sphinx pose. And then slowly come on back, roll it out. Okay, let's take it to our left leg lunge. So adjust so that the right knee is as close to the corner of the wall as possible. And then step your left foot up, finding 90 degrees in the front leg. Hands can stay on blocks. Draw the right hip forward just like you did in the Sphinx pose. Kick the right hip bone forward. It's a slight tucking action in your right hip. Then you can press yourself back. The further back you press, the more intense it is. Hands can be on opposite elbows. They can also just stay right here. Engage your low belly, so there's an action of corseting your abs in to feel like your rib cage, your low abs are pulling up. So if you watch from the cat-cow action we did, this is belly back or just arching in the low back. I want you to find length by finding a little bit of a tuck. You guys know you can always mute this video as you practice it over and over again. And you can play your own music, but more importantly, listen to your own breath as you become a little bit more familiar with these poses. Walk your foot out and then allow your hips to lengthen down. This really will get into the upper hip flexor. Instead of just collapsing forward, lift navel to your spine, hands on top of your thigh. Thinking straightening your arms as you draw the right knee forward. So there is an action with my knee. I'm almost like trying to drag it forward and down with the knee without actually moving. Energetically dragging the knee forward and down. Lengthening my hip. And to come out. Release your left foot. Release your right foot. Ooh. You might shake it out. Okay. Let's take some camels. Tuck your toes, and then you'll sit on your heels. Knees will be hips width apart. So the knees are out, but my feet are right under my butt cheeks. And I'll prepare the blocks right outside of my hips, so where my feet technically are. Fingers on the blocks, and even before you lift your hips up, lift your chest, lift the ribs. It's like the ribs are coming up and the shoulders are drawing back. Hands onto the blocks, take a breath in, lift the chest. And then exhale to start to lift up. Engage the quads. Rather than just pressing your hips forward, think more lifting in the rib cage. Lifting up here, like someone were headbutting you between the rib cage. Head and neck can release. Just breathing. And then to sit down, hips sit down, and then the head lifts up. Okay. And we'll do that 2 more times. Fingertips on the blocks. Inhale to lift the ribs. And then exhale, lift the hips. Head reaches back. This time, if you would like, you can move the blocks to the side. Left hand to the left heel. Right hand to the right heel. Puff up the chest, lift. Maybe even untuck your toes. Hands can go back to blocks, or they can lift off the heels. Hips sit down, head lifts up. Last round, I'll show a little variation and I'll show with the blocks. If you like to do it on your heels, you can do with hands on the heels as well. Fingertips on the blocks, inhale to lift the ribs. Then exhale, lift. Inhale, right arm lifts. Bend your right elbow on the lean, open, rotate so that you're stretching in the right side wrist. Inhale, come on back, right hand returns, then left arm will lift. Bend left elbow and rotate the chest so you're getting a side stretch in the left side ribs as well as the back bend. Left hand will return, square the chest, inhale. And exhale, hips down, head lifts. Slide onto your belly. Let's take a few rounds of cobra lifts. We'll start with baby cobra. Tent the fingertips outside of the mat. And again, your legs aren't super wide and they're not super close. They're about shoulder width apart. The head is the last to curl up in cobra. Inhaling to arch and lift. Keeping your belly button on the floor, lift the chest. Shoulder blades down your back. Drag the feet back, pull the heart forward, just like Sphinx. And exhale, lower down. Inhale, cobra lift. You might lift a little bit higher. Lift the chest forward, drag the toes back. And exhale, lower down. And one more time. Inhale, cobra lift. Maybe straighten the arms. But if you feel any bunching or crunching in the low back, just come on down, right? No need to force the hips up. And lower all the way down. Rest and wiggle. Child's pose, press back. I am going to demonstrate how to get into wheel pose with the use of blocks if you're a little bit tighter. But wheel is a deep extension of your arms straight and your arching in the chest and even the low back. So before we get there, let's stretch out our shoulders a little bit more. Stand up and come to face the wall. Extended puppy on the wall, another one that I consider most effective at opening the shoulders. Fingertips to the wall. Walk your hands up. Inhale to lengthen. Again, this time like imagine you're pushing the mat away. And then exhale, take the forehead to the wall. Take your nose to the wall. And this might be good enough for you. You might feel a lot in your shoulders. Or if you want to deepen, take your chin, your throat, and your chest. You can even walk your feet away from the wall and let yourself sink down. What you want to avoid is, instead of opening your arms out, you want to keep your armpits somewhat squeezing in. So instead of opening my armpits wide this way, I'm trying to keep that external rotation of my triceps. So the wrinkly part of my elbow is basically avoiding spinning out. It's coming down, just like we did in cat-cow. And know that at any time if you decide to replay this video, you can just mute my voice, right? And then you can really listen to your own breathing and get into your own practice. It only gets easier. Right, come on back up. Okay, so wheel pose. If you find it difficult or challenging to straighten your arms in wheel pose right now, that's okay, that's normal. This, don't push yourself. If you really find it a struggle and you can't breathe and you feel like your arms just can't straighten, come down, do this video up until this point for a few moments, a few rounds, and then, you know, play with wheel pose with curiosity to see how the pose has shifted for you over time with practice. So what you're going to do is you're going to set up a bed. Your blocks on the lowest setting, shoulder width apart. So measure up first before you lay down. Your hands should be shoulder width apart. That's where the blocks go. When you lay down so your head is in between the blocks. So you're creating a nice little nook for yourself, your bed. Heels in close to your hip bones. Not too wide, not too close, just about shoulder width apart. And again, when you go up, you're not trying to flare out your knees, you're not trying to collapse them in, you're trying to keep them straight. Fingers onto the blocks. My elbows will be up and my fingertips will face down towards my shoulders. The blocks actually allows this to be less intense on your wrists. So once you have that, then you'll push into the feet. Lift here, come to the crown of your head, breathe in, and then exhale, push the floor away. So wheel pose is both strength and flexibility of your shoulders. Instead of looking for your toes, I want you to think looking for the wall, forehead towards the wall. Okay? Maybe one day legs will straighten. Push the floor away. Straighten the arms. Avoid letting your elbows knock out. Keep that external rotation of the arms. So if this is you, and you're struggling, try to breathe and straighten a little bit more, and then come down. It takes practice and it takes consistent work, but eventually, this pose does get easier. So use it kind of as a benchmark if it's not accessible yet. Use it as a benchmark for after you've repeated this class a few times. And that's it for today. I hope that was helpful. If there's anything else you would like to see, just let me know. And other than that, just keep practicing. If any questions come up, you can always ask.